So now we are going to listen to Rosa's presentation. I am going to tell you a little bit more about Rosa before we hear her. Rosa is an activist, a human rights activist, a member of War Resisters International, and currently living in West Papua. She's working on the issue of human rights. She's also an educator for nonviolent resistance and believes in nonviolence as a way to make change with the power of the people. She's also a member of the Yugoslavia Pacific movement and co-founder of the Make West Papua campaign. Rosa.
Thank you, Estefania, for a very nice introduction. I'm so privileged and honored to be here and to present, just sharing a little bit about what we are doing in West Papua in terms of our struggle to self-determination. So if I may to share a screen just to show you a little bit about visual of what happened on the ground, and maybe that can help you to get a sense of what's going on in West Papua. So I will start share my screen. Yep. All right, let me do the play. Oh, I hope it's work. Yeah, so I don't know if the play can work. Yeah, okay. So this is West Papua. If you can see, the West Papua is in a pink color. If anyone can see the my screen. So West Papua is located just very close to Australia. So geographically, we are West Papua is part of a big island in Oceania or in the Pacific, which is the New Guinea Island. So New Guinea Island has been divided into two separate countries since the European colonizers came and divided us. So on the western part of the island is West Papua, and we are part of Indonesia. We still administrated by Indonesia. And then on the other side of the border line is Papua New Guinea, an independent state of Papua New Guinea. So culturally, because we share the same island with Papua New Guinea, so we identify ourselves as a Papuan, as a Melanesian, and as a part of the Melanesian groups of islands and countries in the Pacific. So the history of West Papua struggle for self-determination is actually started since the era of 1930s to 1950, when the European came and introduced the new concept of this nation, new values like a Christianity. So many of West Papuan people, indigenous West Papuan people, started to resist against the new idea of religion. So it started with the kind of religious movement among the West, across the West Papuan. We have a group of people who believe in their religious, indigenous religion and practice. So they have kind of opposing the new idea that came to West Papua. So that resistance came from since the first contact with the outsider. And then in 1961, during the preparation, even in back a little bit in late of 1915, when the end of the Second World War, so all the colonial countries need to be decolonized. So the Netherlands, as a colonizer at the time of West Papua, started to prepare the independent state of West Papua. So they organized a big gathering, and then West Papuan chose and formed their own council, which is called New Guinea Council. So then they formed the council, and then the council decided to adopt the national anthem, the national flag, we call it Morning Star flag, and the national coat of arms. So because of this formation of a new nation, it makes Indonesia and also the Dutch not Dutch, but the U.S., they are not happy with that preparation, so they kind of started to want to occupy the land because West Papua has very rich in terms of natural resources. So they Indonesian troops under the operation called Trikora came to occupy West Papua in 1961. So this and then in 1962 the New York Agreement was signed under the between the Dutch government and the Indonesian government, and then supervised by the UN and the US. And since then, a lot of protests happening across the West Papua, especially because people were opposing the manipulative political process that happened without involving West Papua in the process. So then West Papua started to form what we call the West Papua National Liberation Army. Basically, this is a guerrilla group who fight for the independent state of West Papua based on the preparation, the decision of the National Congress, the National Council of West Papua in 1961. But I won't talk about the armed or guerrilla group because a principle of nonviolence that I believe that it's much more relevant for many West Papuan, especially ordinary people, civilians to fight. But we recognize the existence of the National Liberation Army, and they fighting in guerrilla against the Indonesian military. Even it's still ongoing until today. And because of this armed conflict between the Liberation Army and the Indonesian military and police operations, they now we have almost about 8,000 of internal displaced people have to seeking a safety place and flee from their own village to other neighbor place just to find the refuge place. So since that political changes, so we started resisting for our self-determination struggle by using music and culture as a way to resist, because during that time the Indonesian is very military country even until today. So the oppression was so high, and people even can't kind of they try to find a way how to resist against all these dictatorships government at the time. So then some of our musicians, they formed a band called Black Brothers, and they crossed the border to Papua New Guinea, and they traveled to other countries and started to perform and make musical concert, and then they speak about West Papua and the liberation of West Papua. So they kind of representing what West Papuan people look like at that time. And we also inside the country we have a group, music group, started to build kind of awareness about the identity and nationalism of West Papuan across the country, but especially in the universities at that time. So it was the group was led by one of the West Papuan anthropologists from the Cendrawasih universities. His name is Arnold Ab. So his movement called Mambesak movement. So it's also working on music and culture. Then along the way, we have key issues that really kind of pushing the West Papuan to become more strategic in terms of facing the repression and struggle to gain our political self-determinations. Our key issue is actually exploitation of the natural resources. As I mentioned, that West Papua is very rich, and these are the pictures of the mining site from the company called Freeport McMoran. Now it's Freeport Indonesia. So it's a joint shared company between the U.S. Freeport Mining Company and Indonesia. So they're digging all the land and mountains, and create a modern mining city in the middle of the jungle. So, and because of the mining, of course, the military repression came along with that. And even until today, because of the interest of natural resources and mining, uh, the ongoing conflict that I mentioned to you before in the highlands, in the area that between the armed groups and the Indonesian military is actually motivated by the interest of the government of Indonesia to take over some sites to open the new mining. So that's why the armed group is kind of fighting against this. So this is how the military repression and presence look like. So it's not only military, but it's actually include police. So police and military have a joint operation together. So you can see they work side by side. And even military members teach at school, at elementary school. And so it's a kind of an early process of intimidating little children and West Papuan children. So they have to follow whatever the military members said in terms of propaganda, kind of propaganda to create an image as if the military is good and they are good. So, and there are also some pictures of the protesters and when the police forced them to lay down on the grass and from the morning until evening. And this is the kind of attitude of the police and military members every time they faced West Papuan civilians when people protest against injustice or even protest against the repressions. So when we talk about West Papua strategy in a non-violent civil resistance perspective, we come to the kind of the goal is to have a non-violent revolution for Merdeka or freedom vision, which is a combination of the civil resistance as a heart of the strategy, combined with the diplomacy and also other conventional politics, such as human rights mechanism at the UN, and also other form of activities. So, in terms of West Papua strategy in the movement believes that to win the movement, we have three domains that we have to work on, which is the occupied territory, means inside West Papua, and then the occupier's territory, which is in various provinces and cities of Indonesia, especially in Jakarta as a capital city and as the heart of the colonizers. And then the society, the third domain is the society of the occupiers elite alliance, which is in the regional and international. So it can be states, but it can also be companies such as mining companies, or even the company that produce weapon and sell weapon to the Indonesian military and police. So that's kind of area that we also have to work on. So in these three domains, what we are doing is three things. One is to organize the grassroots and mobilize the grassroots, because when we believe in civil resistance, our key of the movement, our strength of the movement is the grassroots. When the grassroots in West Papua, in Indonesia, in regional and international domains can be organized and mobilized, means that we step one step ahead in terms of our strategy. And then the second thing is we build a solidarity and networks among the grassroots, but also among the actors, and also to win. And the three thing is to win the political goal. So we just not create a solidarity, but we want something. We want to gain the political goals, and the political goals means to reach the decision makers, which is the government, which is the company, the CEO, to stop the company, to stop the country, to support any form of violence that create human rights atrocity inside West Papua. So And as I mentioned, that what we are doing inside West Papua now, the civil resistance is very strong and growing compared to 10 or 20 years ago. So now the younger generation, the activists, have decided to bring the heart of the struggle in the center of the city, so everyone can join, everyone can participate, whether it's young people, women, children, everyone can participate. Even though West Papuan realized that repression is growing and growing, and even and in my opinion, and also in many of us, we believe that when the repressions become visible, it means that the movement or the strategy is success one step ahead, because we are able to mobilize people and to make those police and the government also to have to listen and look at us. So the way people do that, they are by mobilizing people, mobilizing especially young people. You can see on the pictures, many of them only 10, 12, 13, 15 years old, but they join the movement because they already understand that they experience injustice and the bad situation. Even their parents were killed by military operation. They lost their parents, they lost their family. So, and in Indonesia, we also have many West Papuan students study in Indonesia. So they also mobilize and organize grassroots in Indonesia, and also West Papuan students themselves. So we have numbers of students movement organization forms, and one of the prominent one in Java or Indonesia is the student West Papuan Students Alliance, AMP, and they're the one who kind of working very progressive, build a solidarity and build a network and get the support from Indonesian activists and students activists, and that's one of the success is to form the Indonesian People Front for West Papua. So the Indonesian activists started to organize themselves to also support the struggle for self-determination of the West Papuan people. And I can give an example of other support or solidarity. For example, in the regional Pacific, in Fiji, students and women and people organize themselves and also show their support through marching and other arts and creative activities, just to bring the issue more alive in the region, and also try to push their government to make a decision on the political goals of West Papua through several two regional organizations to get them recognition. So, and we also use music, dance, and art, and build a solidarity with the Aboriginal Australian people as well. Um, and we also campaign against the military, the militarization of the police and also of the military by foreign government, because we know that foreign government train the Indonesian military, they support them, and also they funded them, but they produce weapon, and Indonesia is one of the big buyer in terms of weapons. So the weapon being used to kill West Papuan. And as I said, also in other countries, we try to reach the parliament members of any countries that we can approach to get their support. Just to get the leaders, especially in the region, and step by step move to the bigger sphere, just to get the leadership also to recognize the struggle of West Papuan people for self-determination. And we also do everyday resistance. Our women are very creative. They create a string bag with the flag, because flag is our symbol of resistance. So every time people wear t-shirt or bag with the flag, then it will create kind of people, the security, they are not security forces or police, they're not happy with that, and many times they try to stop these women to sell these symbols bags, but then they, because they said it's flag and it's banned by law, but then the women always said no, this is not flag, this is just a bag. So that's kind of action, and also any means of just to show the way we resist. So we always say it like the tifa drum. Tifa drum is our traditional drum. The harder you hit us, the louder we become. So that's exactly a kind of spirit that came into the way we people are resist. So also like create a knitting with the make create a top with the knitting and also with the t-shirt printed, and try to combine everything that we can do to show people that we are resist. Even the everyday resistance that we do is by our we dreadlocks our hair just like my hair. So it's not only because we love reggae music, but it's basically because that's a symbol of resistance. When you are in West Papua and you have dreadlocks, you are considered as a rebellion, and you are rebels against any norms in West Papua. So that's why many young people, especially, they dread their hair as a symbol of protest. So that's my presentation, the end of my presentation. Thank you.